Welcome to the Brad and Taylor Show. Today we have Jaymie Paternoster.
You're listening to The Brad and Taylor Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to pursue their passions. We're sitting down with some of the best to learn how they got started and some lessons they learned along the way.
Hey Jaymie, how's it going?
Hey Taylor, fantastic. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on.
So what exactly do you do?
I have been a licensed home inspector for 11 years.
Nice.
Sweet. So let's back it up a little bit. When you were little, did you know you were going to get into home inspecting, or what was your plan?
What did 5-year-old Jaymie want to do?
I don't even think home inspection was a thing when I was little. So I think it's like it's probably only 25, 30 years old, the actual industry of home inspection. It used to be realtors, they go into houses and they're like, hey, you need an electrician to look at this. You need a roofer to look at that. I think the realtor was like the general practitioner, right? Huh. And then there were people out there that said, well, I can do this. And yeah. They got more fine tuned as the years went on. But no, when I was little, my favorite toy was a Lego. I would build commercial buildings all day long. I loved space planning and understanding the function of a build. Just weird. What 7-year-old does that? But I loved it. I loved Legos. That was my favorite toy.
Well, that kind of ties into what you do now, though, because you get to play with those spaces kind of in a way. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of my story too. Because even when I met the person who owned House Call when I first started, they asked, have you ever thought of being a home inspector? And I said, no. What is it?
Yeah, what do I do?
But my most favorite thing about what I do is, well, there's two things. One, I get to see so many different people, so it's never boring, right? And then the other thing is I get to get into houses versus commercial, which is what I did before I got into home inspection. And houses are just really intimate, and it's a big deal to purchase a home. It's probably the most expensive purchase a person will make in their life. And how many times do you buy a house? So it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And I'm a talker, so I get to talk to people.
I like it. So did you, what was your first job then?
Oh, my very first job. Well, let's be fully transparent here. I was 16 and I lived 1 mile from a gas station that had a convenience store in it. And that was my first job. I was the cashier.
Nice. So how'd you get from being a cashier to doing home inspections?
Well, when I didn't know what I wanted to do until late high school. And then I thought I wanted to be an architect because Legos architect, yeah. Right? So when I was in college, I talked with my guidance counselor and I was like, I don't really know. Architecture is amazing, but I'm a little more selfish than that. And I don't want to design somebody else's awesomeness because I'm pretty creative, but I just didn't want to build someone else's dream home. I wanted to build mine, right? I wanted to understand how it all worked. And I loved blueprints and I loved knowing how the electric was run through the house. I loved understanding the roofing system and the whole structure of the house. I loved knowing how things functioned and why. I loved picking it all apart and understanding the why. And he said, well, that's a thing. That's called facility management. So I went into the facility management program, and that's why I got my bachelor's in. And I got my associate's degree in architectural technology, which is just blueprints and understanding the function of a house. But the cool thing was I got to delegate it to other people. So I wasn't the one with the hammer. I was the one who understood how it all went together and got to have a team or kind of be a general contractor. My dream while going to school for facility management was to be the facility manager for a commercial building. So I went to Ferris State. I think my flag is in the background. Woo woo. Little plug. I went to Ferris State, and it was for my internship. I came down here to Detroit and interned at DTE, and that was my goal, was to be the facility manager at DTE. And through that internship, thank goodness I learned it this way. I was like, well, I really like this, but I don't necessarily think I want to be in commercial buildings. It just felt repetitious because it's the same thing every day, which is great for a lot of people, but not for me. And it was just one building, but I didn't quite know what was next. I just knew that wasn't it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. So then when did you when did you start doing the home inspections then? You said you met that person that owns it, and then did they, so how did that work?
So eventually I moved to New Orleans, and it was in '06. It was 1 year after Hurricane Katrina, like the anniversary weekend. My boyfriend at the time, my now husband, my boyfriend at the time had an aunt and uncle that lived in New Orleans. And being in facility management and having like construction style jobs, it was, and also like being in the Detroit area, it was when the big three car companies had crashed, and or it was like when that whole thing was starting, and I couldn't find a job. I was an aerobics instructor. I was a kitchen designer at Home Depot. I like had all these little jobs just to pay for school.
Right.
Yep.
So monster.com sent me down to New Orleans, and I had the same like style of job. I was still a facilities type person. I designed floor spaces for commercial buildings, understanding the function of what that particular company needed in that floor. And it was great. I was so glad to have a job. And I was like, man, commercial, same building. And I was at a restaurant, and I met a business owner, and he happened to be the guy that owns House Call.
Nice.
Okay. Nice.
And he was like, hey, so you're telling me about your background and stuff. Have you ever thought of being a home inspector? And I said, well, what exactly is that? Because that's when HGTV started, kind of showing us what it was all about, and DIY started. And so I've heard the term, but I didn't really understand. And I'd never bought a house. I was almost 30. So he explained it to me. I went on a home inspection, and I was like, this is it. This is what I've been missing. So I became an employee for House Call in New Orleans. I was the 11th home inspector, I think.
Wow.
Okay. How long were you in New Orleans before you came back to Michigan?
I was in New Orleans a total of 7 years.
Okay.
I was a home inspector for House Call. I think the math is 3 years, like 3 or 4 years. I was with them, and then I said, Brandon and I, we ended up getting married while we were down there. When did we get married? 2011. It's our 10-year anniversary in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. So after we got married, we were like, okay, we want to start a family. We really like like our family that raised us. We turned out pretty great. So let's raise our kids near our family. Well, we're both from the Midwest. I'm from Indiana, and he's from here. He's from East Detroit. Okay. So I said, hey, House Call, I want to start my own home inspection company in Indiana. We want to move home. Can you help me? And they said, well, just become a franchise. So we said, okay. And that wasn't really a big thing for House Call. They had, 10 owners that were then franchise owners in New Orleans, but it wasn't a thing north of the Mississippi. So I got to be the guinea pig. I went to New Orleans. I started my business. I was 7 months pregnant at the time. And I said, I'm a good home inspector, I promise. and that's just how we started in the Midwest. Yeah. And it was fun.
Yeah. So how did you balance the mom life with the work, with starting that franchise at that point? How did you balance that?
Mom and dad.
Yeah.
Well, balance is such a funny word. And I was really hard on myself for years about the word balance, because people use that. And I'm like, well, surely people use the word balance because they have balance, or like they understand how it all works. And I'm doing something very wrong. So I eventually ended up talking with a really wise woman, and she said, oh, sweetie, there's no such thing as balance. It's rhythm. And I felt so much freedom in that. She's like, you go and you're a mom, and then you come back to the center, and then you go and you're a wife, and you come back to the center. And it's just like, it's kind of like spinning plates. And as one slows down, you go and spin it, and then you come back to the center. And I felt so much freedom in that. So I guess that's how I've been able to do it and not completely want to hide under a rock. I mean, it's so hard, spinning all of those plates and not, sometimes you drop one and that's fine. You just got to let it go, clean it up later because the baby is crying. Like, it's fine. So I got to learn that I suppose 7, almost 8 years ago. And eventually I hired a home inspector when we were in Indiana, and that really let a load off of me. I felt a little less pressure to have to go and
Mhm.
get all of those home inspections overnight, because in this industry, and with you guys too, I mean, in this industry, it's a word of mouth industry. You've got to do a great job or you're not going to get phone calls. It's just how it works.
Yep.
And then the second thing is, you've got to be available.
Mhm.
And if you're not available, they're going to call someone else. And if that person is awesome, are you going to get a call the next time? So I felt a little more freedom when I hired my first inspector, and I think that's when I became really excited about not only being a home inspector, but then owning a business. Like, entrepreneur, that was new for me. I thought, well, gosh, I can have a team. Let's see what this looks like.
Yeah. Speaking of teams, where do you see yourself and your company going forward in the next 5 years, or even in the next year? Where do you see the growth happening there?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we sold our I say we because my husband, if like my husband's my backbone. Like, if he supports me, I do really well in our business. So when I sold the Indiana territory, there's still house call in Indiana, which is awesome. We started here in Detroit because my husband's from here, and we missed, frankly, in New Orleans. It's just a dense population, a bigger city with more opportunity, more
Mhm.
things to do. And we missed that. So coming to Detroit was awesome. I think we've been here for 3 full years now. So coming here, I was like, okay, I love this whole team thing. We need to build a team and just continue to grow our business. So as of today, we have 4 home inspectors and 1 like waiting to be trained, which is so exciting. We just keep moving forward, right? Whether it's intentional or not, we just keep doing a really good job. We continue to build relationships and have integrity. And then if we get another awesome person that says, I want to be a home inspector, and it works out, then amazing. So anyway, that's where we are now. Moving forward, you know, it it looks so much different than what I thought it would. I love being a home inspector, but I've been out of the field since August, and it feels really good to be able to focus on the other stuff.
Yep.
I
Mhm.
was I was telling you guys earlier, like, I didn't have a budget. I was just a home inspector, and I didn't have a training process, and I didn't have, there were all these things that I didn't do before because I owned a job,
Right.
and now I own a business.
Yep.
Yep.
So I get to focus on all that other stuff. But I'll tell you, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I went into a house just to check on something for a client. We do that often. Like, they have a question, we just go back. And it felt so good to be in the house. I was probably there longer than I needed to be because I'm still a technician at heart. I still
Yeah.
love to dig in and answer questions and educate. So anyway, in the next couple of years, I my goal now is to just be a really good leader.
Mhm.
I to have a team and to work together in unity and to all be striving to move each other forward, not just in home inspection. I mean, that's the caveat to having a really good group of people around you. We do this job that's really awesome, and we provide education for people, and it's really great. But I think at the end of the day, what matters to me most is that the team that we have, I understand their personal needs. Like,
Yeah.
I know, I know what one of them wants to do in 5 years with his family. And if someone, wants more education in a certain area, or wants to, you know, take his family on this vacation, like, I want our team to work together to achieve those goals for each other. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mhm. Yep.
So that's where I see myself in the near future, is just to be an awesome leader and to have a team that feels excited to come to work because it's what is providing them to accomplish their goals. Yeah.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Good answer. I love that.
I like it. So what kind of advice did you get in the beginning when you started doing home inspections? You were when you did it on your own, where they're like, you're on your own. Go try to do this.
Oh my gosh. I remember. So the gentleman I worked for in New Orleans, his name was Ed, and I love Ed. He taught me everything that I knew when I came up north of the Mississippi. And Ed called me, and it was a hard training process, uh, for a couple of reasons. One, I was a female. I was the first female home inspector there. Well, and here too. I don't know any here. And I think that made him a little nervous. We were both excited about it, but I think that made him a little nervous. Realtors weren't very keen about having a new person show up at a house when they were used to Ed.
Yep.
And that's, I think that any business owner has to go through that. When you're a one-man shop or one-woman shop, and then you get someone else, you really need to get the people that send you business to trust your whole team. And so that was difficult when I first started. But he gave me he called me right before I went into my first home inspection, and I was nervous. Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. There's a difference between being nervous and being confident. I was both, right?
Yep.
Very confident in what I was doing. He taught me very well. And I just pay attention to detail anyway. And I love chatting with people. Like, I have a master's degree in interpersonal communications. Like, I love, figuring out what people need and kind of flipping the switch to accommodate that. But he called me and he said, and it wasn't like this grand pep talk or anything, but he was like, and mind you, we were in the South. He's like, don't call anybody honey or baby. He's like, it's yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. It doesn't matter. So he kind of gave me that last verbiage to say, you know what, you're comfortable in the home inspection, but it's very important to still be professional and to find that, I'm going to use your word, Taylor, and to find that balance between the two. Yep. He said, you must make them feel comfortable in the house, because it's very scary. It's not up to you as the home inspector to scare them even more. They're coming with knowledge. So you must make them comfortable with you. And then he says, but you are also a professional, so be confident in that. And I carry that with me every day. And whoever comes on our team, that's the absolute truth for what it is that we do. We have to educate. That's the technical part of what it is that we do. That's why we exist in our business. But we're not going to have business unless we talk to people like they're real people. Yep. I mean, it's our job to educate. I think that was the best piece of advice.
That's
what has
awesome.
been, over the years, either with you or with your team, what's been the most memorable inspection that you guys have done? Do you think it would be like your first one, or is there a different one that maybe stood out more?
Oh, my first one was a mess. I don't even remember. I could probably speak for my guys too. If you show me the picture of the front of the house, I'll remember everything about the house. I'll remember what the bathroom wall color was. I'll remember everything. But the most memorable house, I think it's those that you kind of get like starstruck over. You walk in and it's difficult to stay focused sometimes when you've got some homes that are just gorgeous, on perfect. Oh, you guys are probably the same way. And you look out the windows and there's this beautiful landscaping. And like, sometimes you get a little lost in, this is what I want. I think that's the coolest thing, is because we get to see so many houses. So there's not one particular house or scenario, but it's like, I think we're a little spoiled because we get to see so many different houses, and there's some that we just have to be like, stay focused, stay focused, stay focused.
Yep, for sure. If you had to start, let's say you had to start all over today with all the knowledge you had and you wanted to start your business, how would you spend the first $1,000?
I would figure out what tools were necessary to physically do my job. A really great ladder, a really great flashlight, like that matters. So some really good tools. Figure out what services are necessary in our area, because I think that as a home inspector, and I've been very careful about this over the years, is home inspectors very often get sold on the newest, fanciest tool, and they're not necessary. We need intellectual property. We need a good set of eyes, and we need capable hands. And that's what does a good home inspection. So I think that's what I would like spend a bulk of the money on, is the necessary tools, but really good ones. And then the rest would go towards developing relationships. Mm-hmm. I'll buy 1,000 cups of coffee if that's what gets us to build really good relationships, because that's how we build our business, is that word of mouth and people that are gonna, stand up for us and put our name out there.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone were to get into home inspections, what would be something that you could recommend for them to start with?
Call me.
I like it. I like it.
Well,
the biggest thing I think is to find really good education.
Yeah.
It depending on what state you're in. Like I have a home inspection license with the state of Indiana because they have an actual licensing board that holds you accountable to standards of practice and code of ethics and certain education requirements. Just like realtors, there's continuing education classes that they need so many hours per year or however many years. Michigan doesn't have that for home inspectors. Just recently, they said you have to have a license from one of those, one of the international national organizations, and that's all on the internet. So I would say for a home inspector that wants to be like up and coming, find something to stand on. Something like an education process or something that makes you different than the rest of the home inspectors, and just hone in on that and be really good at your craft. It's a craft. It's an art, what we do.
That's awesome. Hey, how can people get a hold of you?
There's a couple ways. So our phone number, of course, please call. We love to hear people's voices. That's like our curb appeal to the team that's going to show up, right? So our phone number is 586-434-0243. And then our website and all social media, everything is House Call Detroit.
House Call Detroit.
Sweet. Is there anything else? Anything else you want to share with us before we go?
Yeah, always. So we strive on educating our clients. That's the biggest deal. We want to leave the house knowing that our clients know, like, and trust us, so that when they move into the house and 6 months later they forgot how to switch the thermostat from air to heat, they'll call us. we want everyone to be that comfortable with working with us. We want to really be their team or their go-to. That's what
awesome.
It all comes down to. Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks for coming on and sharing your story with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Brad and Taylor. I appreciate your time.
Are these working?
All right.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go. I think they're working. Should we tell them?
Mine keeps falling. It doesn't like my voice.
What do we got to tell them?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. What do we got to point at? Hey, I think there's a subscription button. Like
It might be there.
might be right there too.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Find it. It's red.
Yeah. And it's
Red.
blue. It's green. I don't really know.
It's a color.
This mic isn't even attached. Did you plug these in? Well, I guess.
I wonder if they can hear us.
Yeah. I wonder if they hear us. Well, we should probably tell them if they can hear us. We should probably tell them also give us a 5-star review if they're listening on Apple. That'd be cool.
5 stars,
review.
guys.
Share it with everybody they can think of.
We won't take
But-
4 stars.
I mean, Taylor, I don't even think these are on. I mean,
No, I don't think this is working.
This is not working.